Are you thinking of becoming a Shopify web developer and you're not quite sure how to get started and what is a proven process to start as a freelance Shopify developer or an agency owner? Well, in this video, we're going to talk about exactly that. We're going to cover which programming languages you need to learn, but also how to get your first sales, how to price a project, and how to make sure you have a constant flow of projects so you can really take off as a Shopify web developer. What's more, we're going to cover which services are best to offer as a Shopify developer, because it's not just themes and custom themes and installing Shopify for clients. There's actually much more to it, and there is a service that is much more profitable than just selling themes. So we'll also cover that. So why should you listen to anything that I say? Why am I a credible source for information? Well, I just spent 9 years on Upwork myself. It used to be called Odesk. And after that, I've also taught many people, over 700, how to also get started as freelancers and agency owners. So we have some pretty good data on how to become a Shopify web developer. So let's dive right into the content. But before we do that, please hit the subscribe button and the bell notification icon to support the channel and also to get future updates on which services to sell as a developer and how to get there. So what's going on right now is companies are starting to figure out that they need to have an online presence and not just a website or a WordPress website. What they're looking to do is they're looking to sell products on the internet. And for this, the best current platform is Shopify, because it allows you to have an e-commerce presence on the internet. That is essentially the number one thing that Shopify developers sell. It is not the only thing, as I'll mention in a few minutes, but it's the number one thing and as the first thing a company needs, and it is an online presence, an e-commerce store. So regardless of the current circumstances, what's actually going on is this industry is growing very rapidly because companies actually have no choice but to get started online, because they're closing shops and they're opening web shops. So let's dive a little bit deeper into how to sell them a project that's between $6,000 and $25,000. So let's focus on 3 services. The number one service is, as I just said, Shopify themes and custom themes. But then there's a second service, and that is CRO, which is conversion rate optimization. So once a client has an online shop, a Shopify store, they will need a conversion rate optimization, which is essentially how to make the website, how to make the e-commerce platform that they have, how to make it convert and not just be pretty, which is equally as important as setting up the shop in the first place. And you can charge for this monthly recurring, but we'll talk about pricing in a few minutes. And then there's a third service, which is the most expensive service that I know of in the Shopify ecosystem, and that is Shopify apps. Now, Shopify apps is something you can get into once you are good at delivering stores. And Shopify apps are essentially extensions to the stores. They're extensions to what Shopify can do. And it's essentially like a mini SaaS that you're building inside of the Shopify platform. And Shopify will promote the SaaS either for your client or for yourself if you launch it yourself. If you're just starting out, it's probably better to sell the apps to other companies that are building apps instead of trying to launch the app yourself, because it's quite complicated and requires serious marketing dollars to launch an app yourself. But to sell it as a service, to sell Shopify apps to clients that are currently launching Shopify apps, is very accessible to most developers who have a lot of time in their hands and want to build a real business or who wants to freelance. So let's talk about the programming languages that you will have to know as a Shopify developer. So the first one is for Shopify stores and Shopify themes, and that is Liquid. You need to know Liquid to be able to work in that. Also, you need to know HTML5 and CSS3. So which framework and programming language do you need to build Shopify apps? Now, there's a lot of choice here. However, the easiest to start with is Ruby on Rails, because there's a lot of examples and skeleton apps that are built in Ruby on Rails. So that's usually the easiest to start with. However, you can also use PHP. So it doesn't just have to be PHP or Ruby on Rails. Really, anything that uses JSON REST API with auth will work. So for conversion rate optimization, this is a service that is a combination service of marketing and tech, because it's something that people buy after they need to build the Shopify store, because then the store needs to make money. It needs to actually convert into sales. Now, the best way to do conversion rate optimization is to have best practices in place by looking at the best stores out there and also by testing. Now, testing is done with tools like Optimizely and also with Google Content Experiments. Now, of course, you also need to have Google Analytics installed on the website to do CRO. So what you do in CRO, in a very short summary, is to to test multiple versions of the same page and then A/B test them to see which one converts best for a certain type of traffic. As you can see, this is highly related to marketing. So if you're also interested in marketing, you should also offer conversion rate optimization as one of your services. So let's talk about getting clients as a Shopify developer. So the easiest way to get started as a Shopify web developer is to join freelancing platforms which have already done the work of generating leads for you, in the sense that there are many projects on there where they're looking for developers and they're looking for freelancers and agencies to create Shopify implementations for them. Now, what are they looking for? All kinds of stuff, and they're not entirely sure how to explain it. However, if they're looking for Shopify and they're looking to install a Shopify store, optimize it, and then build Shopify apps, that is essentially what you can do. And you can offer that service, which is in very high demand right now, especially considering the circumstances. It's growing, it's exploding, there is low supply and high demand, which means prices can range between $6,000 and $25,000. Now, if you're selling Shopify stores on Upwork or a different freelancing platform, then only then does it make sense to start selling Shopify apps. You really need to understand how a Shopify store implementation works, what clients care about, and then you can create things like Shopify apps, because it's a whole ecosystem of apps, just like with Android or Apple, but it is for an e-commerce platform essentially. So you really need to understand what is going on, and for this, you need to start creating Shopify stores as your first project that are in the range of $6,000 before you can get those big juicy 25K projects that are Shopify apps. Next up, I have a more detailed tutorial for you on how to get started as a developer on Upwork. So click the video right here, which goes into great detail along with many other videos in the playlist to explain exactly how to use Upwork and how to become a very successful developer on Upwork or an agency owner. Also, I have many other videos in the same playlist, so click subscribe and watch the playlist right here. Now, if you have any questions, I would love to respond to them. So please comment in the comments below, and I'll see you in this video right here on how to get started as a web developer on Upwork.